Hi, it's Cassandra and I'm here filming a video for you on the autumn wrap up, my blog series. It took a little bit longer this year to film it. Now, it's a self-care blog series and it's so good for you. So we're on the savor part of it. And I'm talking a little bit about savoring your wins because so often we experience these amazing things that happen to us that are wins for us personally, and we don't savor them. The minute just passes, the moment ends, and we're on to another thing, maybe more stress, maybe someone else's win is stealing the spotlight, and then all of a sudden the win that we had is forgotten. So we don't want that to happen to you now that you've seen this video anymore. So what I want you to remember is that your wins are important, and here's a way to internalize them so that they boost your self-esteem. I'm going to tell you a little story about how my son, as a white belt in Taekwondo, how he was able to win the whole tournament, and that was his win. And at the moment, how he was feeling, and then what I said afterwards. Okay, so there he was at this tournament, and there were several different obstacles that the young people had to do. And my son said to me, "Mom, I have this feeling, I have a really strong feeling that I am going to win this tournament." And I truly didn't believe him. I looked at him and I said, "Oh, good. I think that you could. I think that you could." And I said, "How and what event?" And he said, "The high jump." So for this high jump, he was going to be up against all the other black belts. So that's why I was a little bit weary of him winning. It wasn't that I doubted him, because he is very fit and very fluid in his movements. So it is possible that he could do it, but he was a white belt. And then there were people who were black belts. Now, to get your black belt in Taekwondo, these particular people, they were mostly young guys. These young men had worked so hard and done so much. I just found it hard to believe at the moment. But then it was time for that event. And so he found himself lining up with all of these much, much taller built people. And I should say that my son was in grade 5 at the time. Okay, and he was going up against a lot of high schoolers who had their black belts. Okay, so there he was lined up to go, and it got down to him against two of the young guys who were in high school, him and them, and the other people. As fast as they were weeded out, it looked like these three were going to be the final three. And my son didn't even look nervous. He just kept going, and I couldn't believe it because he was right. And I just got into place with my camera, and I didn't care who was, behind me or whatever, to get the shots that I needed to, so I could get the shots of him going over and eventually winning. So he was right. He had this feeling about this win and was able to beat these two black belts. And white belts starting out beating black belts, it doesn't usually happen every day. But it's kind of like this cute Karate Kid kind of thing, where the bullied smaller guy gets to win. Not that my son was bullied or anything, but he got to win, and the other guys were a little bit miffed, but they were also learning at this particular dojo how to accept their wins with humility, but also their failures or, you know, when someone else wins. They were not sore losers. They were learning self-esteem, and they were learning how to act with maturity in those times. So they weren't miffed at all. They congratulated my son, and he had to go up and accept the award at the end of the tournament, and he had to bow, and it was so nice, and it was such a good illustration and a really great story, with the moral being to savor those moments and win. So he kind of took it all in stride, and I said to him, I'm so proud of you. And on the way home, I was saying, my son won the tournament, my son won the tournament. And that was my way of not being annoying, but savoring that win, because I knew that that feeling would leave us, so that later we would be thinking about something else, or some other problem or situation, obstacle would be in the way, and we would be off dealing with that. So at that particular moment, driving home, I just wanted to really also tell him and share with him that this is a special thing, and that you might not win a tournament every day. I didn't say it in those words, but in my mind, I was trying to emphasize to him that this is a special, special little moment, like this tender morsel that life has delivered that you might want to savor. But those were a little bit too big of words to use for someone in grade 5. And so instead I said, my son won the tournament, my son won the tournament. And what I was doing was modeling happiness towards him and modeling that savoring, because that's something I might do in my own mind, like, you know, today I got a win, today I'm happy in my own mind, but not maybe say it out loud. So I was trying to teach him this and hoping that that would sink into him to really have gratitude for these moments. So the takeaways from this are that the winning jump, the winning jump takes time. This is another one of my wins. This is a find. My special pumpkin, it's not going to be here forever, and I have to savor this pumpkin. And I'm just turning here so I can show you this board. Winning does take time. So he had been working on his high jump during track and field. He had been working in his own taekwondo, and that was building up to that win. It wasn't as if he just walked in to this tournament as a white belt, never ever practicing any taekwondo and winning the tournament. There was training involved. Okay, so number 2, accept wins with gratitude. That's that whole feeling of humility and saying thank you to whoever has given you the win. Savoring boosts self-esteem. So as parents, as people, as friends, instead of saying don't show off or something counterproductive like that as a parent, what you can do is saying, this was really good, and I want you to realize that this was a special moment for you, and let that kind of sink in, and why. And you might get a mom response or whatever, but it's important to underline and highlight these moments in your children's lives and in friends, other people around you. When they're winning, when other people are winning, it's really important to say, hey, I can see that you're winning here, because sometimes no one else does. And so that's why and when people's self-esteem, it starts to deplete, because no one's noticing that I'm winning. No one cares that I'm winning. People can feel that way. And if you have really strong inner strength, you might not care. But it is nice when people come along and say, oh, I noticed that you were winning there. I noticed that win. Good for you. That's something that you can do for other people. Now, this is how I did earn the nickname of being the cheerleader in a place. I used to work in a modeling agency, and actually the young models started calling me the cheerleader, because I was like, maybe I'll teach my courses here eventually. But I found myself motivating them, and I found myself saying, you've got to look on the bright side. You've got to do that, because no one else is going to do that for you. Okay, so sometimes we just have to be happy for other people because they don't know how to be happy for themselves, or people have just not let them or taught them how to be happy for themselves. So that's how the savoring can boost up that self-esteem. It's so good for you. So I want you to have these 3 calls to action. Commit to your desired win. For my son, he wanted to improve his Taekwondo skills. Whatever it is for you, commit to something that you want to win at. And then when you receive your win, maintain humility. Along the way, when you're training, you might improve. You might, okay? If you work at something every single day or every single week for a year, you might improve. And this can bug other people. And the temptation to brag about it might be there. So maintaining your own humility and your own decorum in the whole situation is important when you get better at things than other people just being like, oh yeah, you know, that's how I am or whatever, and not saying, I just won the tournament. I just won the tournament. Now, if my son was going around saying that to all of his opponents, I would have objected. Okay, so number 3, call to action, value your own wins. Now, how can we do this? That day, I captured everything on a camera and I put it in our scrapbook. But one way you can do that is to journal your own wins and keep track of them. Have one page that is all about your wins for 2019. And I'd love to challenge you to go back through the months of 2019 and to think of a win that you had, no matter how small it was. Maybe you won an argument with your daughter. Maybe you got your child to finally eat their vegetables. However small the win is, I want you to carefully go through each month and write it down, and then look at all 12 of them. And maybe there were 2 that happened in the last month, then you can transfer those around. Write down 12 wins for this year. And I think this is a hard exercise for people because people don't often think about it. They don't think about how am I winning. They often think about how am I failing? How am I not achieving more and doing more? Never mind that they just achieved all of these other 12 things. So on one of mine, I might be putting down this pumpkin, finding a pumpkin that was really cool and interesting. This pumpkin will not be with us next year. It will not last. Even if I freeze it, it will just not be exactly the same as it is right now. And that's part of what autumn and pre-solstice teachings can teach us, preparing for the winter, because all of this is just not permanent, right? So part of the winds of autumn is the realization of all of these fall colors, all of these leaves, all of these beautiful vegetables are not going to be here in a couple of months. So we should savor this time and savor all the energy of this time. And that's a great way to connect with nature and feel better and feel connected to this world. One of the main reasons that suicide rates are on the rise is that people don't feel a connectivity to the earth or humanity or each other. And they get depressed and they don't know how to bring it back. There's no ritual. There's no, richness of culture anymore within North American culture. And that's a wonderful thing to do, to try to bring that back, because it's not actually that hard. It's just knowing what to do. Okay, so I'm going to leave you with that idea. I hope that this is something that will sink in, and this is something that you can find valuable. Thanks.